the values that capitalism and neoliberalism, the values of those systems have permeated every single part of our lives, so that everything we do has a monetary value. Our labor has a monetary value. Water now has a monetary value. Our leisure time, every part of our life costs money and has some value, and we've been taught and sort of brainwashed into thinking about everything in terms of competition and scarcity, and I'm gonna get mine, that means you might not get yours, but that's okay. All that stuff is just part of the air we breathe living in this country, living in this city, and it's like living in toxic air. The other side of that from an organizing perspective is thinking about hegemony reminds us that our work is recruiting and developing leaders from the community who can fight for change. And that we have to remember, though, that the change that we're seeking is not just a change in specific institutional policies or practices or a fight for specific jobs, but it's a fight around values and ideas about how our society should be organized, and a fight about, do we believe our society should be organized around things like fundamental human rights as opposed to the rights of property and the rights of property owners. That struggle around ideas is very essential.
Everyone can see your love is real.
Excelsior, etc. Can you feel it? I've been feeling it. I can feel it. You gotta feel it. All these changes. All these changes. Come on, walk with me. Yo, Excelsior, District, SFC. Nowadays a lot of things ain't what it used to be. Went from anorak jackets, white tees to tight jeans. And as I walk this block, you might see a little more white kids riding their bikes quick. A couple Asian girls seem to all just like it. The culture is changing, the cost of living, but ain't much change with colonial thinking. Gentrification, individualism, multi-syllable terms like capitalism. Gotta teach them the basics, and some might hate it, cause the truth is ugly, but we all gotta face it. Goodness gracious, race relations, class and conflict, the poor's frustration. Vacation, never, mama pops close up, trying to press a CD, hoping you blow up. Folks side hustle cause the state do more cuts. Neighborhood change, I'm sorta like hold up. I'm talking to my folks, but most say so what. I'm feeling all broke up, I miss that so much. Back in the days when I was still young, I'm not a kid anymore. So
The Excelsior District is got a great deal of diversity from all over the world, but we're also different from other districts because we don't have these extremes of wealth. Looking at the last census, we were one of the districts with the lowest per capita income in San Francisco. It was either the Excelsior or it was Bayview, Hunters Point, and Potrero Hill, District 10. Which was interesting. And the difference, what's really wild about that though, is that when you look at Bayview, Hunters Point, you look at Potrero Hill, Visitation Valley, the main neighborhoods of District 10, there's a lot of public housing that's in there, right? So people who are in public housing are, really, really poor, don't have a lot of income coming in. And so we were almost like, tied with them. We don't have a lot of public housing here in District 11, which means that there's probably a greater range in income and wealth in District 10 than there is in District 11. In District 11, I would say is like we're more like working class and middle class, and there's not much on the other side. And probably we're actually, because the number of our per capita is equal or a little bit less than District 10, is that our working class and struggling class, really struggling class, is much greater number than in District 10 as well. think that's part of like the immigrant experience in this district.
I came from Philippines. So, reason bakit ako nagpunta rito is, of course, economic reason, right? Parang maghanap ng trabaho, para matulungan yung pamilya ko sa Pilipinas. Pero mahirap para sa akin yung iwanan ko yung aking bansa, yung aking pamilya, yung aking mga mahal sa buhay. Ito hindi lang sa mga Pilipino. Ito ay problema ng iba't ibang lahi, like Latino, Chinese. Marami ditong iba't mga nag-migrate na ang issue ay halos pare-pareho. Like, of course, dahil ang unang dahilan kung bakit sila umaalis, kabuhayan, right? Pero siyempre, sino may hawak ng kabuhayan? Politics, right? Kung sino yung namumuno. Sino naman ang nagdadikta sa mga namumuno? Of course, number one, US, superpower, imperialista, right? So, like sa Philippines, hawak ng mga kapitalista ang lupa ng mga magsasaka. Ibig sabihin, instead na tayong nagmamayari nating lupa, dayuhan ang nagmamayari ng lupa. Pero kung may maganda sanang, kung may solusyon at mapaunlad natin ating bansa, walang sino man ang gustong iwanan ang kanilang bansa. The reason why we are here because of the US imperialism, right?
San Francisco has more billionaires per capita than any other city in the country, and yet we have some of the poorest children in the whole country. As in Wells Fargo Bank, after the financial crash in 2009, their net profits, and they're based here in San Francisco, were over 12 billion. I think it's $12.3 billion. And while here in the city, just a few miles from their headquarters, 70% of African American children are living in poverty and living in extreme poverty and in extremely unsafe conditions that could easily be addressed with the resources, the wealth that's in this city.
The issues that they have to deal with before they walk into the doors of the school are more overwhelming, and it's the greatest hindrance to learning how to do a topic sentence, to reading through, annotating notes, through math, through science. I mean, outside these doors with their families, that families are barely hanging on to whatever they have left, and the stress, the tension, the volatility that creates is a great impact on our students and the young lives. Whether as real as I know it seems crazy like that, but really from not having food to eat, to not having a place to be able to study, to dealing with gentrification, to dealing with evictions, to dealing with alcoholism, to deal with just basically all the manifestations that race and poverty and gender have in this society comes through with our students, and just all of that comes in here. But on the flip to that, the yin and the yang is it also creates the greatest hope to resistance and resiliency.
And here in Excelsior, I think that sometimes we're kind of just put on the side. So there's not a lot of resources, there's not a lot of youth programs. Even if there is, they're getting cut. I know last year one of the biggest budget cuts that was affected was here in Excelsior. So I think the lack of services for youth, seniors and families is one of the big issues that's happening here.
Lack of affordable housing is a big part of gentrification, and I also think that the families are really struggling. Working class families are struggling to find work and to remain in San Francisco. And the cost of living here is so high. It's really hard to stay here. We have this property, and we could probably live better if we sell this property and move elsewhere. And that's often what's happening. We'll see African American families have left. This district had a lot more African American families in it than it has now, and a lot have moved out to other places.
And so, we've lost tens of thousands of poor and working class families over the last generation. We've lost half of all black families in the last 20 years from this city, and that's after having lost folks from Fillmore and all that in the generation earlier. So I've seen how many people have been lost. I've seen, building by building in the Mission, in the Bayview, even here in the Excelsior, building by building, get torn down, new condos get built, as if, there hadn't been a mom and pop store there before, as if that had been always there, and just this whole new landscape. That doesn't include a lot of my people and a lot of folks of color in general.
See, like out here, they don't do the Bloods and Crips stuff for me. They do wherever you from. For me, that's how y'all get down. So me being from Trail Hill, I'm cool with a lot of people. A lot of people know me from everywhere. They cool with me. They know I don't do that stuff. But people from where I'm from, they go to other sets, jumping people. They see them on the bus, they gonna jump them, either get shot or something, for me. Like, it'd be a lot of people. Like, the other day, somebody killed themselves by my house for, just because, he didn't want to go to jail or something for something he did during gang violence or something, so he killed himself. A lot of people got killed. My cousin got his wig split in Oakland, over there on 90th or something like that. He died through gang violence and stuff. And just a lot of stuff be happening on the streets.
What are folks going through out there?
Like, it's like a different world outside of these walls. You know what I'm saying? Because you can act all preppy and all that, like when you're in school. But when you're out on the street, it's a whole different story. Like, ain't nothing but a bunch of dealers and killers where I'm from. You know what I'm saying? So, like, you gotta be smooth with it. Like, you gotta lay low and be cool in school, because you can't let the teachers and stuff from school you can't let them know how you act in the street. That's a totally different thing. Yeah. So, like, it's good to have book smarts. You can be book smart. Out there, you can be street smart.
Black students from Sunnydale. White students from Glen Park. Project and upper middle class, even that. She's somewhere in the middle. She's somewhere between, she's lower middle class kid. But she's an A student. Parents are educated. Good kid. She's like, I love this class. I love what I'm learning. I hate all of this oppression. And she's in this phase where she feels this white guilt. And I'm trying to get her to a space where your role is solidarity. Your role, we don't need pity. We don't need guilt. Like, we need you to learn the history. We need you to take a stand with those who have the least. And so she gets that intellectually. When people react, she takes, it's really hard for her. Like, it gets really heated, And so she takes it personally. She takes it, she's like, when you say, the man or white man, she was like, I think of my father, I think of my grandfather. And then I think the class has done a really good job at telling her, it's like, no, it's not you, unless you are a slave owner, unless you are, wealthy capitalist, unless you are, foul and nasty as we've been studying these people throughout history. If that's not you, don't trip. So it's an interesting thing where, like, in my class, I'm trying to teach to those who need it the most. But within that class, there are elements, it's small, but I'll have 2 or 3 white students or upper middle class students who don't have that same experience. Whereas the majority have this experience where they really feel ethnic studies in a real way, not just an intellectual way.
Living up in Mexico with only my mama, and that's just the beginning of my life. So, where dad had abandoned us before I was born, it was 1999 when it all happened when my family was torn. Crossing the border, looking for a better life, born in Mexico, brought to us that trying to fit in, trying to be fresh, but nothing would work. New language, new culture, new me. Going from school to school, never found the one that could come mine, cause all the drama got me going crazy, happening all the time. Chilling with my friends, taking my homies, trying to go the good way, but always being lonely, and that's what tore me. Changing my look, my style, my swag, but I could never change the person inside of me. Ethnic studies is what I'm trying to learn. ethnic studies, that's what's up. So I'm just doing it to learning my past, my present, my future. The past is just that's trying to come through, connect to the present, gonna make change come true. I'm gonna finish my boy, head off to college, succeed in life to get more knowledge.
See kids that get kicked out of every school and they come here, and for the first time they feel comfortable, they feel trust, they don't have their walls up. To me, those are bigger successes than actually who goes on to college and who's not, because there's so many other things that play with that. But seeing a child to be able to be in a classroom with not their guards up, being able to not fear being educated, and being able to take risk is liberation within itself in the context of where we're looking at in America and the kids that we're having. So, but you know, the other, another 30% or 40%, I mean, you know, that's just, you know, there's some things, and when I first started off, I could never accept it. But you got to chalk it up and just know, as a teacher for social justice, you're in this for the long haul. It's not just education, it's housing, it's jobs, it's healthcare, it's ending the wars. So that's a difference between a teacher that just, that's when I shut my doors. There's a difference between a teacher teaching for social justice and a teacher who's fighting for justice. There's a big difference of activism and education. And you know, for me, I don't know, I can't, in an institution level, it's hard to say, but the ones that I always tell kids which keeps me going, is the 30%. You know, and I tell the kids who graduate, you can never forget about the ones who didn't make it, the ones who got wrapped up, the ones who lost hope. You can't forget about them, because if we lose, you know, if we forget about them, then we're gonna forget not only where we're going, but we're going to forget a part of ourselves and where we come from. And you know, in colonization, that's the quickest thing you teach. When you colonize a people, the people who have colonized, is the quickest thing is to teach them is to forget your past and to forget where you come from. And then you teach them that you've made it because you're individually better than them. And it's their fault why they didn't make it into the system of competition and individualism. You know, so it's their fault. Again, it's the victim. And you know, and when you internalize colonization, ultimately that's what you get, a victim and oppressor.
So, man.